Climate change has been a pressing topic of debate among world leaders for decades now, especially as of late with carbon emissions continuing to increase year after year. And although it's widely known that the Earth is warming as a result of fossil fuel consumption, it's also important to consider the long-term effects that this has on the environment as a whole. And these environmental impacts range from ocean acidification, rising sea levels, air pollution, intensified droughts, wildfires, and other hazardous events like flooding and um, violent storms. And in fact, we're only hurting ourselves when it comes to burning carbon rich sources of energy. For example, coal fired power plants in the US generate about 35% of the country's total mercury emissions alone, and that not only pollutes our airs but also poses dangerous implications for our health in the form of our immune system and nervous systems. And evidently, with our current reliance on fossil fuels to sustain the economy, we're only putting our natural environments at risk alongside the health and safety of people across the entire world. And if the federal government continues to fail at enacting serious measures that reduce the amount of carbon being emitted into the atmosphere, then these issues will only start to become more amplified and eventually impossible to avoid in the future. And therefore, I think a carbon tax plan should definitely be implemented in the United States to attack the direct source of the issue, that being the manufacturers of carbon intensive goods and services. As of late, there are 69 countries that have a carbon price ranging from merely $1 up to $150. And in fact, the US is not one of the countries on that list. And apart from environmental benefits resulting from a tax plan, there are a multitude of other upsides that should be taken into account that would make the decision for government officials much clearer. First of all, a carbon tax would direct the costs of emitting greenhouse gases directly to the parties that are contributing directly to the problem. Um, that will make it a very efficient way of reducing the most emissions possible through financial incentives. And financials are basically the main thing that businesses are concerned with. Um, and eventually, this would lead to businesses developing more environmental friendly processes by utilizing sustainable energy sources. And although this transition to clean technology will require a lot of initial investments by firms, the expenses won't be as bad as they've been anticipated within the past couple of years, because the cost of clean technologies has been seeing a downward trend in the past decade due to constant advances in the core technology that have increased the performance and scalability of clean tech. And that only benefit businesses that choose to adapt to a new era of clean energy consumption and production. And eventually, these costs will only get lower throughout the years as the renewable energy sector continues to expand while carbon prices trend in the opposite direction. As a matter of fact, from 2020 to 2022, crude oil prices have increased by 350%, while coal and gas prices have also reached new historical highs within the past couple of years. So, a combination of a carbon tax and the ever increasing fossil fuel prices will only serve to push these manufacturing businesses to acquire new technologies sooner rather than later before the environment becomes too far gone to recover. And with the income derived from a carbon tax, a large portion of that money can be diverted towards funding the research and development of renewable energy technology that will only serve to reduce the prices and costs even further. And this is a good segue to the economic benefits of a carbon tax. If the government were to facilitate the many facilities in the US to adopt non carbon based energy sources, then there will be less of a desire to purchase fuels from other countries such as Venezuela, Iran, and Russia. And this is especially important with the rising costs of these fuels that have also been blown out of proportion by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And the discontinuation of relying on these countries for fuel will limit our economy from being susceptible to uncontrollable factors such as war being waged between foreign countries. And the billions of dollars that the United States pours annually into these countries for fuel can be diverted to other important areas of development, especially economic sustainability plans. And of course, these there are other issues that will be addressed with less spending, which include less inflation and the U.S. to be able to reach its savings rates. And another detriment that has been faced in our economy is the limited flow of income experienced by a multitude of industries. And a good example of that is the oyster industry, which as a result from ocean acidification, they have been stripping millions of dollars, and thousands of people have lost their jobs within that industry because oysters are becoming more and more unfit for consumption due to toxicity. And on the other hand, those in opposition of the topic have expressed fears that the adoption of clean technology by companies will result in an increase in prices of goods and services to compensate for greater costs of investing in clean technology. And this is especially a great concern for those living in low income households. But however, with a properly constructed carbon fee system, the income from taxes can be redirected towards these households that would be most affected by increased costs and prices of goods, and that would be in the form of dividends. And overall, if the United States decides to do their part in the world's fight against protecting the environment from global warming and pollution, the country would do a great deal in improving its reputation as a participant in this worldwide fight. And with the various benefits that would follow, especially the economic ones, the US can serve as influence for other countries to work towards the same goals.